This is interesting because this is the reason that we've been describing the way the universe works with such steady precision. Everything that you've lived through all those years you have been doing anything, you have been putting preferences into your vortex. Now, some of those preferences, it wasn't the right timing. But the thing that we want you to focus on with us right here and now is that each and every preference, especially those that you've been adding recently, those, I know what I don't want, I know what I do want, they are strong and active in your swirling, attraction-based vortex, and your inner being is all over that. So this is the phrase that we want you to focus upon. Cooperative components. I put a whole lot in there. As those components cooperate with each other, they take on a new look. They take on a new form. They take on a new energy. They take on a new frequency. They take on a new momentum. For the sake of this conversation, maybe it's easier for you to all hear it this way. Your vortex has almost outgrown you. That's why you can't see it. Because it is pure positive energy based. There's no resistance whatsoever in it. So when you say, I know that I can be or do or have anything that I desire, that's in perfect alignment with the vibration of your vortex and what your inner being knows. But when you say, but I need to know what it is before I let myself see it, then you are the one that are putting a sort of veil between you and it, and that's why you call it blank. Let's call it general. It's not quite come into view for me. Esther's been having so many experiences recently, mostly since the pandemic, because there have been so many things that aren't quite structured for her like they have been. In other words, she's wanting and needing and wanting and needing to focus more deliberately. And she has discovered that it takes more concentration and focus when you're by yourself and you're not rendezvousing with anyone today, to stay focused upon the things that are a vibrational match to who you are and what you want. So she's been noticing that she'll get an impulse about something that doesn't seem to have any relationship with anything she thinks she wants or ever thought she wanted. It's just an impulse. But because she's sensitive to those impulses, she'll go along with it and doesn't usually, not always, but doesn't get too far into it before something shows up that she goes, oh, and now she's sort of off to the races. Now something else comes. You know how when you awaken from you've been dreaming, but you can't remember what the dream was. And then something happens. Your inner being usually guides you to something that causes a trigger point and you remember. And then as soon as you get a little piece of the tail of that dream, more and more and more of it comes until you can remember the whole dream. Have you ever had that experience? So this is what happens with your vortex. Once you get close enough that you get just a little piece of it, then it begins to come fuller and fuller and fuller into view. But here's the thing that we really want you to hear, and here's the thing that you're asking for, and here's the thing that Esther is most excited about. You don't have to know it before you see it. It can show itself to you and you'll recognize it. You don't have to say, I want it to be this. Oh, there it is. And I want it to be this. Oh, there it is. You can say, I want it to feel like this. I want it to feel like fun. I want it to feel like clarity. I want it to feel like something I really want to do. And then when you see it, you know it. You're ravenous for it. Wild horses couldn't keep you from moving in the direction of that. So just relax and know that that's what's on your doorstep. That's what's going to be coming. And so what we've encouraged Esther to begin saying, what I mostly am is a pointer. I'm a pointer. I like that. I like that. And not with the attitude of, I like that. I'd like to put that in my vortex, and I'd like to put that in my vortex. That's too involved in your own business. That's you getting in your own way. I like that because it's beautiful, and I like that because it tastes good, and I like that because it's funny, and I like that because it's interesting, and I like that because it's beautiful, and I like that because it feels good, and I like that because it feels good on my face, and I like this shower, and I like this jacuzzi, and I like this swimming pool, and I like these shoes, and I like this, and I like this, and I like this, and I like this, and I like this. And the more of those things that you're pointing at, I like that, I like that, I like that. What it does is it activates everything in your vortex that has anything to do with any of those things, and it begins to swirl in a way that then you begin to get called in a stronger way. Momentum is the name of the game. First, focused feeling, then recognized thought, just a little piece of the tail of it, and then off you go. Then off you go. Do you accept that your vortex exists? And do you know that there are all kinds of things in it that you put in that you might remember individually putting them in? But we're not advocates of trying to remember what you lived that caused you to put things in, because most of what you lived that caused you to put things in the vortex are things that you're not wanting to live. That's the contrast that your inner being left completely behind. So the reason you don't recognize it is because, like when you have what you call your death experience, there's no death, but when you reemerge into non-physical, just like that, your vortex is the positive contents of the life that you've lived. And if you don't recognize it, it's because your inner being is only keeping active the positive contents. So if you need to remember how it got there, you go into the negative bounce and then you can't recognize it. So that's why you've got to seek the contents of your vortex in general terms. I know it's going to be fun. I know it's going to be longevity. I know it's going to feel good. I know it's going to bring other people. I know that it's going to be collaborative. I know it's going to be satisfying. I know I'm going to know it when I see it. Jerry and Esther would be in a clothing store or a furniture store or a store. Esther's favorite thing, she dragged Jerry into everything she could yank him loose into. And they would always say, "Can I help you find something?" And Jerry's response was always, "We're just looking for something to want." Oh, we're just looking for something to want. And the people in the stores would look at him like, "You're weird." And Esther would look back and she'd say, He is weird. He's wanting to find something to want. Well, that's kind of what you're saying. I'm wanting to find something to want, but I can't see it. Yes, you can. It feels like fun. It feels like fun. It feels free. However, we're going to clarify something for you. Your inner being wants us to. Your inner being never looks back because you never stop being in the now. This life experience is not something to be measured and then judged. There's no looking back. There's just now, now, now. And when you realize that that's the difference, that's the primary difference between the physical you and the non-physical you. Your inner being is not looking back in any form of justification of where you stand. Your inner being is just always 100% of the time reveling in where you stand. And so you don't have to wait until you reemerge into the non-physical to join your inner being. Every time you're in a place of joy or fun or appreciation or love, you are in complete blending with your inner being. Here and now. Let's assign a word to this that you can really hook into. Let's call it timing. Because your physical body wants lots of different things to eat, but not all at once. And the cells of your body know what they're reaching for, and they'll offer you a craving. Well, if you're all in your head about what you should eat rather than following the impulse that your inner being is translating for you, you might miss the timing of that. So timing is what you're looking for. Timing of right place, right time. Timing of exiting the freeway. Timing of being someplace where something's triggered and you know to buy that and you know to eat that. Timing. Well, what is the basis of good timing? Connection. Because your inner being knows precisely where you are relative to all of those things in every single moment in time, and knows what your path of least resistance is to get you there. Never judging where you are on your path, never wondering why you are where you are on your path, always just calculating where you are relative to where you want to be and offering an impulse. Well, that impulse will feel like timing to you. It will be timing to you. It will feel like an impulse, but it will be perfect timing to you. So can you see how your work is simpler than you've been making it? Your work is just about that connection, which gets easier and easier to understand how to achieve. So let's break it down. I want timing, which is to say, I want connection, which is to say, I want to feel good, which is to say, I want to be aware of how I'm feeling, which is to say, I understand this perfectly. You do understand it perfectly. We're just going to say there are a whole lot of people clamoring at you with a whole lot of information who are on the bottom half of the emotional scale, looking at that problem and that problem and that problem and that problem and that problem, calibrated to a problem, thinking that they can give you a solution. All they can do is stir up the trouble. And so what trust is, what faith is, what inspiration is knowing who's got the answers for you. And it's not anybody else. It's your own inner being who's walked every step, eaten every bite, thought every thought, been in every situation with you every step along the way, who gets you and adores you and wants what you want for you 1,000,000 times more than you could even conceivably want it yourself. Because that non-physical energy is love and upliftment and refreshment and replenishment. And so this alignment that we talk about all of the time is what replenishment is. When you are allowing yourself to be tuned in, tapped in, turned on, not only does it feel good because it's satisfying, it's a replenishing time. So there's replenishment and deplenishment. There's depriving and enlivening. There's allowing and there's resisting. It gets easier and easier to sort it all out. And everything will give you exactly what you expect it to give you, you see. So it's sort of like reworking some things, but it's not as much or as hard as it sounds because you already know so much. You know that your inner being exists, and you know that you are an extension of source energy, and you know that you are a cellular manifestation, but you know that before that you are a vibrational manifestation. And you know that there are cooperative components in the vortex, and you must know that there are cooperative components in your body. And you must know that you have the ability through inspiration to gather the cooperative components. So what we're really talking about, and we really like having this conversation, we're talking about from where you stand in any point in time, what's the path of least resistance for you to get to where you want to be? And your inner being is not ever going to say to you, not one time ever, you've got to figure it all out at once. It's just what feels best from where I stand. And so in an environment where there is so much to choose from, it's easy to get confused. But your inner being is not ever confused. So start by asking for some clarity. Make a decision that you're going to take it easy. Say things to yourself like, I don't have to figure it out all at once. Say things to yourself like, I have a very resilient body. My body is very resilient. It can make something good out of everything. And then this is the big piece that we're asking of you, of all of you, really. Ask yourself, in the middle of every decision, what's the satisfaction factor here? So now we're back to that same subject. Who are you calibrating to and why? You calibrating to someone because they get ornery with you if you don't give them what they want? That's not the way you want to teach your children. You said, I want to teach my children to follow their own guidance. I don't want them to follow me. Well, we're saying the same thing to you about all of this. It's the same thing. Everything's the same thing. That's why we only have one answer. And what's the answer? You've got an inner being who knows you, adores you, knows where you are in relationship to everything you want, and will guide you every step of the way. And you, here it is, you have got to establish a vocabulary with your inner being that you understand. An agreement with your inner being that you understand. And if we were standing in your physical shoes, we would use the emotional vocabulary.